Check 1, 2. You need to do some voice, some vocal work.
Deep lunges.
Hello, Dan Herrenbruck.
Hey, Craig, how you doing, man?
Welcome.
Yep.
To the Insurance Dudes.
How's it going?
Good, Jason. How you doing?
Good. Good to meet you.
Noticed just right off the bat, Dan, that your artwork is slightly different than the artwork that Jason has behind him.
just a bit.
Slightly.
That's funny.
Jason brought...
We'll go really well.
Yeah. Why don't you have an Alf in between your pictures?
I should. My wife would kill me, though.
She wouldn't like that?
She's the decorator.
Nice.
Well,
My wife.
I'm no dummy. I didn't pick and choose your battles, right?
Totally. My wife doesn't come here, hence. Like my
I like it.
Growing up.
I like it.
I noticed today he has both Alf and E.T., so capturing both.
I love it. I'm reliving my childhood.
That's what I'm trying to do every day.
Welcome to the Insurance Dudes, a podcast for insurance agency owners helping us to think of different ways to optimize our business and our lives.
In this week's episode of Insurance Dudes, Craig Pretzinger and Jason Feltman meet Dan Herrenbruck, who needs to write around 500 items just to maintain his $18 million book. And get this, he's in Florida, where he can't even write property. How does he do it? He's gotten creative with marketing to drive quotes to his 10 producers. Want to learn about scaling your book? Let's do it.
Yeah, well, why don't you introduce yourself to the international audience that we have? We are broadcasting to every continent except for Australia. Well, right now, no listeners in Australia.
I'm out then. My wife is actually Australian, so her grandmother is Australian. So
can we get her to subscribe, and then we would have a
we'll have it in. We have an in.
Nice.
Right?
I've been looking for that in.
My Daniel Herrenbruck. I am an Allstate agent since 2006. Moved down from Indianapolis to sunny Naples, Florida, to take over my father-in-law's agency, and he just retired in December. We've got 43 years of experience. He started it when he was 21 years old and retired in December. And
that's awesome.
He's got like 18 million in premium.
That's it.
He's on the Allstate. He's in the Allstate Hall of Fame. So I'm no pressure.
No pressure
to steer this ship.
Right.
But it's a good business. I've got I'm a blessed man. I've got good people who work for me and with me, and we're just trying to grow it. I want to be in the Allstate Hall of Fame one day.
Mm-hmm.
Get that big bronze bust. So goals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part taking over? Is filling in for such big shoes?
Getting him to back off a little bit. Honestly, there's a guy who's been. I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, but you got a guy who's been uber successful for 40 years. It's not an easy thing to step away and give the reins over. So, getting that, navigating that, what is something you need to do versus what is advice. There's a fine line between that. So. But we're blessed. We're blessed. We spend a lot of time not talking about the business outside of the business, at family dinners and the like, so that we can have a working and fruitful relationship in the business.
How have you been created the situation where you can turn it off? Because we talk to a lot of agents, and especially the newer agents that jump in, they're talking about they answer the email while they're at dinner at 8 at night, and for me that's not business leverage, and I think Jason agrees, and you as well.
It's priorities. It's priorities. You got to work. I'm not afraid to work late, but I got into this business out of the corporate world because I wanted some freedom. Freedom to go watch my kids play sports, freedom to do those things. So I'm always available. But my priority is my family. And, when I leave here, it might be 6 o'clock or 6:30 at night. Some nights, if we don't have anything going on, as a family, but when I leave here, I'm off. I'm off duty,
Mm-hmm.
It's an emergency. So it's all priorities.
Awesome.
I always tell my staff, always be at work, but that doesn't mean you're always working. Just be available. Simple things like if you're going, my son, my 8-year-old son has to get allergy shots about once every 6 weeks now. And every 6 weeks, every time I go in there, I wear an Allstate branded shirt. Why? Because people see it and they want to talk, you're an Allstate guy. And they just start talking. I can't tell you the number of policies I've written because I was wearing a shirt. I didn't go in there with the intent of working per se, but I'm always at work. So
always
that's kind of my philosophy.
Representing that brand.
Yeah.
Your brand.
Yeah. Everything you do it with a purpose. And then it's easier and easier. Once your purpose is defined, it becomes easier and easier.
Well, and it helps to have 18 million in premium.
That's not a bad thing.
It starts exponentially, right? There's so many policyholders that it's
Sure.
like a wildfire.
Sure.
And we've talked a lot about phases of an agency. What are some of the biggest challenges for when you get to that size?
Growth.
You probably wouldn't have.
It's just growth. It's, where you get to this size and you retain 90% of your business, you're losing $1 million in premium a year before you break even. So you have to write $1 million plus in premium to just break even. So it's the struggle of watching what goes in, goes out the back door versus having, separate staff to grow it, to bring new business. And it can be a lot for me trying to juggle both sides of that coin.
And what are you guys doing marketing strategies for growth?
I'm a big proponent of, I've talked to people about marketing and everybody's got their own opinion as to what's good, there's no such thing as a silver bullet in marketing. The successful people are the ones who find things that work even a little bit and then do it over and over and over and over and over again. That's the key. I've got a lady who I call her my external marketing director. She drives around and drops off business cards and candy and internet leads and things to about 150 or so mortgage brokers and real estate offices in our county. And she does it every week. She hits them on like a 3-week rotating scale. And, she just does it over and over and over again. And then, she laughs. She said, there's some people who just know me as the candy lady. Candy, but they want to give their business to the candy lady. It's just relationships. But whatever you decide to do, just do it. Commit to it and do it over and over and over again to work itself out.
That's a cool strategy. And how long has she been doing that?
I don't know, 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it started, let me back up. We've been doing that 18 years. It started off with my mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law stopped doing it probably, 3 or 4 years ago. And then my current lady's been doing it for like 4 years.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I know that people will jump in and ask the numbers on that. Would you go into that? I'd love to hear, okay, she hits X number of places. Out of those X number of places, on a monthly, because I know you track this stuff, right? On a monthly basis, how many referrals do you get from that activity?
We write, on average, we write 150 homeowners policies a month. And, you know, you probably directly attribute 125 of those to mortgage referrals, lender referrals. I mean, they come in here all day, every day. So some months are better than others, especially in Southwest Florida. You know, it's a very seasonal area, a lot like the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. You know, the population triples in October and then reduces by a third in June. So, you know, you have a couple of months that are lean. For us, it's just like for every year for us, March is a lean month, because it's that transitional month between when people are starting to pack up and go home, and, you know, nobody's really coming down here. So you just plan for that. And then, you know, November every year for us is a banner month, because everybody's just getting down to Naples and the activity is booming, and there's nothing I can do to really control that. That's, you know, that's nature. That's the nature of where I live. So you just plan for it. You plan for March being a little lean and November being a great month, and you go from there.
And as long as you're consistent with that activity, then they're going to think of you in November when they show up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. How many places does she hit?
150 or so.
150?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It's a lot of Snickers bars.
It's a lot of Snickers bars.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I don't know if, you know, geographically down here, it's the Naples, Fort Myers area. So she's probably driving, I don't know, 35 miles north from our office and probably 20 miles south. So if you take that as a radius, what is that, you know, maybe a 45, 50 mile radius from the office, you know, not so much east and west, because we're about 3 miles from the water. Which runs out of real estate pretty quickly going west. But, you know, so it's a pretty big geographical area that she hits.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
So
you just create a route. You say, here's the list, boop, boop, boop. And she just hits her places.
Yep. That's it. And she's great. She's a single mom with 2 kids, and it's worked out. And she also operates my Facebook page and does all the digital stuff behind the scenes, and takes mailers out and does all those things, stuffs envelopes, and does all the things for me. But it's a lot of work that she can do from home. So it works for her. You know, she's texted me before at 9:00 at night. She's got this thought about putting something up on the Facebook page, and she wants to get it approved before she actually does. And so it's great. It works for me. It works for her. She does a great job, you know. So we're blessed with it, blessed in that way.
That's awesome. So coming into this business from the corporate world, what was the biggest challenge? Because that's a big agency to.
You know, I worked here for 12 and a half years before I took it over. So when I came in, I was green. My background, my degree is in finance. It's funny. I actually wanted to be an attorney growing up, and then went to college and realized what law school actually entails, you know, and I didn't have that kind of gumption. So I got a degree in finance and business administration as a financial planner for about 6 weeks out of college. You know, and I learned very quickly when I was first working there, the guy in our orientation class said 95% of you are not going to make it out in the first year. And he was right, because financial planners, you start, especially out of college, you know, hey dad, you've been working for 40 years. Let me handle your retirement money. That's how you start your business. You don't know anybody. Right. You talk about pressure. forget it. I learned very quickly it wasn't for me, but I always liked the sales, always liked people, talking to people. So I got in with Frito-Lay and started doing route sales for them. So I had, 15 or 20 grocery stores on my route and got to know the store managers and things. But, it's just relationships. That's all it is. If you're good with people and you genuinely enjoy people and talking, you're going to be successful in this business. You just got to keep your head down and do it over and over and over again. It's repetition.
Yeah.
Is your dad involved now?
Only from a business standpoint, from a 10,000-foot view looking down, he and I have business meetings on how to grow and how to move the business. But as far as a day-to-day, he doesn't come in and really talk to the staff anymore. And, I'll call him in every now and then in our sales meetings and stuff, and he'll throw a trick or two that worked in 1989, out that we could try and bring back, but now by and large, he's removed from the day-to-day side of things.
Just have him sit over off to the side and work the microfiche.
Yeah, right. That's right.
He knows how to do that.
He's told stories about, back in the day of actually having to hand rate auto policies. They didn't have computers when he first started. He was actually in the booth at Sears back in the day, and they would actually hand rate auto policies.
It's remarkable.
Somebody wouldn't disclose a speeding ticket or something, and you rate it by hand, and then they find it after the fact, and then the rate goes up, and you got to go and explain those. It's not like it is today with the touch of a button. Everything about everywhere.
It was so slow. There's a woman here in Tucson that owns a Hawaiian restaurant, and we got I had one of my shirts on. So she said, right. I used to work for an Allstate agent in Hawaii, and back in the early 80s. And she said, so there was that. They were hand rating it, but then they also had to ship the paperwork from Hawaii to Chicago, right? So think of the lag time before the underwriters even look at it, and then they would have a problem with it, send it back. And it would take weeks for a policy to issue. And, you're making $8 a year off it. It's just great. I mean, here we are, at the red light. There's some people.
Here we are sitting in Florida and Arizona having a conversation, right?
Right. It's
technology.
amazing.
It is crazy. So what do you find right now? What's your biggest challenge in the agency?
Managing staff, just like everybody else. Managing staff.
How many staff do you have?
I've got 11, counting myself.
Cool.
So,
and are you guys departmentalized?
We are. Yeah, I've got two retention, 2 young ladies who work on retention. Their job is to call clients all day, every day. We've got one administrative assistant and a second who's kind of floats between those two departments, and then everybody else is sales. And the administrative people, they do all the endorsements and mortgage changes and those type thing, check the mail, do all of that stuff. And then I've got everybody else is in sales, trying to grow it. Kind of the jack of all trades. I try and keep myself to the quote unquote difficult clients, or the more intense clients. We have, who has the auto, home, personal umbrella, boat, and maybe some life insurance with us. If you've got a seasonal condo down here, probably not going to talk to me. That's how we try and kind of departmentalize it a little bit. So, I mean, I say that, if they want to talk to me, they can talk to me, but everybody's kind of my gatekeeper in that. Cause if you can get lagged up in a hurry.
Yeah, you can definitely get bogged down.
So, yeah.
Rabbit holes.
Right.
Old rabbit holes.
Yeah, some little thing that starts off with "Do you have a minute?" can end up where now you have to call RNBC
or an afternoon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they just bought a new car and they need to change out a car. That's what it is.
No, I'm going to get you over here. I know that she's going to do a much better job helping you on that. So
yeah, and you know, like everybody else, you have some of those clients who they only want to talk to Dan, and that's fine. You know, I've got one lady who just refuses to give her credit card to anybody else in the office but me, and that's fine. She's 82 years old too, so you can give a little grace where grace is due. So.
We always promise the listeners that they're going to get some juicy tidbits. I think that from a marketing or new business acquisition standpoint, and obviously you have a lot of different lines in the lake here.
Yeah.
So having what's her name?
The marketing lady, Dana.
Yeah. So you have Dana going around to the 150 or so loan officers handing out Snickers.
Yeah.
And then there's got to be some other significant.
Yeah, we do a lot of direct mails, direct campaigns. I'll buy internet leads periodically. You know, my opinion on internet leads is you don't buy them to sell. I know Craig, you and I talked about that a little bit a couple weeks ago when we were talking. I don't buy them with the intention of selling them the day we get them. I buy them for the cross date. Because an internet lead, you know, typically you call them and you're the seventh person that's called them and they're tired of talking about their car insurance that day. But 6 months later, you know, they're ready to talk. So you buy their name and number is what you're buying out of that. So we'll do that periodically. I don't do that. You know, on a consistent basis. I'll buy them for maybe 3 months a year, and then keep working the cross dates, because, you know, all this is, if you want to grow, it's opportunity. You know, the more people you talk to, the more policies you're going to sell, and trying to keep that pipeline full.
What's your number one advice that you'd offer any new agent that's starting out?
Just stick with it. You know, it'll all work out. People give up too easily on things. You know, in my experience, and you know, it's not always going to be good months. It's not always going to be, you know, I go home at night and, you know, beat my head against the wall, use my sounding board. Not every day is a great day. It's just not, you know, but specifically for the agency owners out there, you know, number one advice I'd give you is, don't let your staff see you having a bad day. Keep that stuff for home. You know, never. There are things that Allstate does as a company that makes me want to. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. But you'll never hear me badmouth Allstate to my staff. You know, that's who I work for. You know, that's my number one company that I represent, and I believe in their product. Do they do everything perfectly? Nope. Neither does State Farm, neither does USAA, neither does, you know, anybody. But you'll never hear me say a detrimental word to my staff. My wife, that's a different, you know, behind closed doors, you know, that's different story, you know, and then you get it out and you move on, you come back the next day, and things always get better the next day.
Yep. If you had to do it all over again, from when you started with Allstate, what's the one thing you would do differently?
That's a good question. You know, I don't know. I think I did. First of all, I'm blessed. I walked into a pretty good situation. I married the right girl. And from a business standpoint, not from a personal standpoint and from a business standpoint. So I walked in and I was trained by someone with a world of experience. So I can't speak to the guys out there who are starting scratch right now, who don't have any experience in in the insurance world. That's foreign to me. There's not a lot that I would do different. I just be a sponge, learn it, and learn coverage, learn what makes you different from everybody else. Even the other Allstate agents, I tell my staff, I don't see the State Farm guys in town as my competition. I see the other Allstate guys as my competition. What makes me different? State Farm guys sell another product. I can't control what State Farm guys sell. That's all their business. I can't compete against that. It's my product versus their product. But the Allstate guy down the street sells the exact same thing that I can get an offer. Why should they take me over him or her, as the case may be? So that's kind of the forefront of my mind all the time.
That makes sense. So it sounds like the two nuggets you kind of gave as advice is perseverance, just stick with it, right? And then the relationships.
Yeah,
it's kind of been a common thread.
Absolutely, and everything else will take care of itself. It will all fall into place.
I like it.
It really will. So
cool. What's your if you went to go grab fast food around there, what's your favorite place?
I there's a McDonald's right by the office, and I haven't been there. Outside of their coffee is abnormally good. I don't get McDonald's food as in general is just awful, but their coffee in the morning, it's legit. There's a Subway here I go to a lot. There's a Taco Bell down the street that I've hit up a couple of times, but that's about it. Close to us anyway.
Awesome. What's the transition from where you were going to Florida? What's it culturally? It took me about a year to really like it. It was not a hard decision. When we first started talking about it, I didn't want to do it the same year we got married, and switch careers and move across the country and do all of it all at one time. That's a lot.
I had at the time I was a district manager. So I had like 9 guys who ran routes for Frito-Lay underneath me. And one guy called me at like 10 o'clock at night. He was on his way to the hospital, so he couldn't run his route. And he left the depot at like 2:30 in the morning to get his route was like an hour away from the depot. And, so who are you going to call to run a route on, 4 hours sleep? So I just said, I'll do it, And so I went home, slept for like 3.5 hours, got up. First thing I said when I turned the truck on in the morning was it was 7 degrees outside. And that was the day I decided we were going to Florida. Because we were planning on going, we were planning on getting and working for another year and then making the move like in 2007. And I just said, what are we doing here? Like, let's just do it. Rip the Band-Aid off and go. And, 7 degrees, they can, that's one of the things I don't miss about Indianapolis.
Yeah. That's brutal.
It's awful. It's awful. I do miss the city, being able to go downtown on a Sunday morning and try and get Colts tickets. And if you don't, you just go across the street to the sports bar and watch the Colts game with, 150 of your closest friends, that kind of stuff. Where I am, I'm like 2 hours from Tampa and 2 hours from Miami. So if you want to do something, in the city, you got to plan to do it, so I missed that little bit of it, but I wouldn't go back. Certainly not in January.
Right. I would take the humidity over that. That's just, brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal.
We have the weather trifecta represented on this call: Arizona, California, Florida. I mean,
right.
Everybody else is envious of us.
That's funny.
Well, cool. Anything else that you can think I know we sort of touched on advice for new agents or anybody buying an agency. How about that? How about somebody who's buying an agency? Those fundamentals that you bring up, I think, are so important.
Yeah, I just know the book. Do your due diligence. If you're buying a book, know the book and know the staff. Look at those loss ratio numbers and those retention numbers and all of those things, because when you buy a book, there's going to be a little bit of attrition. I mean, I took over from my father-in-law, and there's been a little bit of attrition because everybody wanted to talk to Steve. Well, Steve's retired. Well, I'm leaving. Well, I'm Steve's son-in-law, so still talking to the family. I don't know. I want to talk to Steve. You're going to get those. You're going to get those people. So if you've got somebody who's a book of business who's retaining at 70%, you can expect it to go to 60. That's not a good deal. So do your due diligence before you make that purchase.
Awesome, Dan. Well, hey, we really, really appreciate your time. We're here. We're right at we went a little tiny bit over, but thank you so much.
You bet.
Really thanks.
My pleasure. Appreciate it, guys.
I'll see you on Tuesday on the Agency Vault coaching call. So
I'll be there.
A little plug. And we do appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Man. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Jason, good to meet you.
Yeah. Good meeting you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Your Insurance Dudes podcast is sponsored by Agency Vault, an industry leader in agency coaching, hiring and retaining top talent, and sales training with the 7-step trusted advisor sales framework. Are you up for the challenge? For $99, you'll get 28 days of access and an opportunity to join our private platinum coaching group. For more information, navigate to www.agencyvault.com.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.